Welcome back to another Artist Spotlight. Again, I'm Joe Foy, president of Harmony, and today we have December 2021's Artist Spotlight, Kyle Ramey. Said that right?
Yep.
All right. And so, Kyle, I'm just going to have you kind of start and just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and what you're doing now.
Well, I'm originally from a small town in Virginia, and I first began music studies probably around the age of 7, and I did several years of piano study. And by the time I got to high school, I thought more about making it something more serious. And so I started studying the organ as well. And I actually took a job. I've been working in churches since I was 16.
Oh, wow.
So I have, I think, worked for about 8 churches in that time. And I've been here at Trinity in Watertown for the past 15 years.
Wow. Where were you studying music?
When I was young, I was studying with a wonderful lady who was a professor at Shenandoah University, which was the conservatory in the town where I grew up. And then when I went away to college, I studied at Westminster Choir College in Princeton, New Jersey.
Gotcha. And so now you're here, Trinity Church. How long did you say you've been here again?
15 years.
15 years at Trinity. And kind of what do you do throughout the year currently at Trinity?
Well, several things. One of the main parts of my job is the liturgical part, which is to act as organist for all services, including extraordinary services like weddings and funerals, all regularly scheduled services throughout the year. I'm also the conductor for all the parish choirs, the chancel choir and the handbell choir. And I also, since 2006 when I came, founded the Trinity Concert Series, which is now in its 15th season.
Very nice. And the Trinity Concert Series, it took a break a little bit last year because of COVID, right? And now that's started up again.
Right.
Yep. And how many concerts have you had so far this year?
This year we have already had 4.
Yep.
We have a season of 14 this year, and I believe that since its founding, we've now done 105 or 6. So
nice.
Yeah.
And I got to see the cellists, which is cool. So we're in Trinity Church, if you couldn't tell right now, and the cellist played over here, and it was just absolutely beautiful. They played what they called anything from Brahms to the Beatles, right?
Right.
And it was just phenomenal stuff. And it's funny, I love the Beatles. And the part that I liked the most was actually not the Beatles. It was the other stuff that I was like, wow, I did not know you could, play that kind of stuff. And they kind of got a little bluesy sometimes too.
Yep. Yeah.
It was a good experience. What do you have coming up next?
Well, in December, we have a couple concerts. On the 12th, we have an a cappella group coming in from New York City, Backtrack Vocals, and they are a group of 5, so you have your typical 4 parts, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass, plus the 4th or the 5th person is a beatbox.
Oh, nice.
So it's something that is, in that combination, new for the series here, and it's already generated an enormous amount of interest. Very few tickets are left. We have, as part of our season, we offer each year an outreach program for students, and with several local schools, we now have about 150 kids coming, and they come free of charge to hear these concerts.
Yep.
And they're going to do a Q&A session afterwards, and that's co-sponsored by Harmony.
Yes.
So thank you.
We're looking forward to that. That's really cool. So you got these a cappella people. Are they going to be doing kind of Christmas stuff, or is it a mix of other stuff?
It's they're calling it a Backtrack Vocals Christmas. So it's all of their favorite Christmas selections. There are some sacred pieces, a lot of secular pieces as well. It should be enjoyable for just about anybody.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. So you said there's been over 100 that have been done so far. Did you have a favorite in there?
That's a very good question. There have been a few that. It's funny you don't remember necessarily the favorite ones. You usually remember the ones that are the least favorite.
They're just as entertaining.
They are. I think for me personally, the one that I really enjoyed was the 100th concert, which was Second Harbor Vocal Arts Ensemble and Orchestra doing Handel's Messiah in 2019, and I conducted that one. So that's why I think for me it was personally one of my favorites. It was an extremely enjoyable experience. It's about 3 hours of music, and the place was packed. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. Actually, one of the other neatest concerts I heard was actually last weekend, and it was a jazz trio. And jazz, I've always thought jazz was interesting, but to me, a lot of jazz sounds the same. And I never found it, nearly as interesting as they did at this concert. They took some jazz standards and played it. It was piano and guitar and string bass. And took some wonderful jazz standards, played them beautifully, but then they took some more classical things, some Chopin and Tchaikovsky, and actually rearranged them in a jazz style. And it was some of the most creative playing I've ever heard.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, who started the Trinity Concert Series?
I started it in 2006.
You
yeah.
did?
It was one of the very first things I did when I came here. I arrived in February of that year, and by September we were starting our first season.
And what made you want to do it?
There were several things. At first, I wasn't sure if it was going to be a series. I got a call from one or two performers that were looking for a venue in the area. And I said, okay, yeah, I think we could do that. I had never done any administering in that part of music. So we kind of faked it for a few times there, to be honest. None of us really knew what we were doing. We were very new at it, but even the first concert we had around 200 there, and we thought, well, maybe there's something here. Maybe there's a need in this community for this type of music.
Yep.
And we keep on the series has traditionally stayed more classical and light classical, but we've really expanded in that 15 years to include things, like I said the last time, this great jazz group.
So let's go back. I want to talk, because keyboard was where you started, but then you got into doing organ. How did you get into that again?
Well, I think when I was around 12 or so, I was at church one Sunday after the service, and I thought it would be cool to sit at this instrument. And the music director at the time, who later took back his words, said, I don't think you should be doing that. Well, for me, that was the invitation to do it. So then I wanted to do it. I wanted to learn about it. And once I started to learn about it, I couldn't stop learning about it. I really found it fascinating. And so later on, several years later, I was subbing at a church that this music director was now attending, and he was always the last person to leave the building, had to hear every note I played, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because every time I hear somebody talk about like piano to organ, I mean, it's like you think, oh, this isn't too bad, it kind of has the same kind of keys and stuff like that, you know what you're going to be playing. But really, it's a lot different, right?
Well, it is. The piano has several things that the organ does not, and vice versa. So the piano has, a regular piano keyboard of 88 keys. This piano also has 3 pedals. So it has a sustain pedal, most especially. It has a soft pedal, and you can utilize that sustain pedal to allow a specific tone to sustain out while you play other tones or however you're doing it. And the soft pedal really mutes part of the strings to allow you to get this really more intimate sound. The piano also, originally piano forte it was called, it was designed so that you could play both forte and piano just by the amount of force in your hands. It doesn't matter how hard you hit a key on the organ, it's always going to sound the same. What determines the sound are the stops that are drawn. There are only 61 keys on a keyboard. Usually there are several. Here at Trinity there are 4 keyboards, and then a whole pedal board of 32 notes, which just duplicates the keyboard, and that's for the organist's feet. So we're a little bit more like octopus playing, or like a duck doing, that's on the surface of the water, which you don't see normally is all that pedaling that's going on underneath. So it's there are several differences in technique, the way you have to sustain things, because the organ has no sustain button.
Yeah.
I can hold the note for an eternity; it'll just keep sounding, and as long as there's wind. So, but as soon as you lift it off, unlike the piano, it does go away. So they're slightly different technique.
Yeah, I don't think I could honestly do that, because I use that sustain pedal a lot. But the thing that really intrigues me is the feet, being able to pay attention to where your feet are.
Right.
Plus, you could have your hands on one keyboard and then on another one, doing different notes. That's like insane. Have you ever seen organists who also sing along while they're playing? Because that would really add in.
I have on occasion. In fact, in college, I was working for a church where it was a Catholic church at the time, and there would be on an occasion where a cantor would not show up for service, so I'd have to cantor and play the service. So that I didn't love it. I'll admit it. The other thing is that during COVID, I've been recording all the hymns for online, and I've been playing them and singing them. So I've had to kind of do that again. It's not the easiest thing to do. You don't focus on one. You're trying to do all of them at the same time, so that it kind of suffers that way. But it is possible.
Yeah. And do you know how old the organ is here at Trinity?
The original instrument was put in 1924, and that was put in. It was given by Emma Flower Taylor. So Emma Flower was also the person who gave Flower Memorial Library.
Gotcha.
And her father, she gave Flower Library in memory of her father, Roswell, who was governor of New York. And she attended this church, and in 1924, they were looking to purchase a new instrument. This building was erected in the late 1880s, and there was an instrument installed at that time. And sometime around 1923, 24, they decided that they wanted to get a different instrument. So they looked at the Skinner Organ Company out of Boston. And that was an organ of around 30 stops. And that lasted until 1970, when it was rebuilt by a firm from London, which is Hill, Norman and Beard. And they had shops somewhere in Ontario. And they increased the organ to 60 stops. So it has been enlarged over time, and it's changed over time as organ building techniques have evolved. So
yeah, and they're not cheap, I imagine.
No, if you were to try and insure or replace this instrument as is today, it would probably be around $2 million.
Yeah. Nice. I have that right here, actually.
Yeah.
So, speaking of things that are kind of expensive, you guys also purchased a new grand piano,
Right.
recently, right?
Right.
And that's actually over here. Have you gotten a lot of use out of that?
We have. Actually, the very week that we all went into shutdowns for COVID in 2020, it was March, I got a phone call from Syracuse, from Artist Pianos, and they are the Steinway dealer for this entire area. And they wanted to know if I was interested in receiving a quote on this particular instrument. This particular instrument was built in 2013, and it's never been owned by a private person. It was owned by the Steinway dealer, and it was one of their artist pianos. So basically, if it was rented out to orchestras or solo performers, if there was a Steinway artist in the area, they're guaranteed a Steinway to perform on. So that's the piano that would go to that performer. And so for the first 7 years or so of its life, that's what it did.
Okay.
And it was used all over the place, from Skaneateles all the way up to Cape Vincent for the piano competition there, and all points in between, including here.
That's great. One thing I kind of want to point out, kind of randomly in the middle here, but it's like Harmony's very thankful for Trinity and what you've done to help us, because we did our first virtual event. If you saw it, there was one segment that was done here where Jonathan and somebody, I forgot his name.
Was it Danny?
Dan Davis. Yeah, they did a segment and they used the piano.
Right.
Which was great. And then we did another thing here where we had the senior soloists here.
Right.
That's right. And that was really cool because I got to mic the piano, which I had never done before. And then Trinity also houses our lending library, our instrument equipment lending library. So you guys have been, for the community in terms of what you do, it's phenomenal. I mean, having especially the Trinity concert series and how long that's been going on, that's just absolutely amazing. And having this piano here that, you've had people come in and use, it's just really cool. And I hope you guys are like all proud of the fact that you're adding a lot to the community by doing that.
Oh, we are, and that's the mission of the series. It's entirely for community. And when we purchased the piano, my stipulation was that this was going to be for everybody in this area. It was not going to be just for Trinity Church. Obviously, Trinity Church uses it, and the concert series uses it. It's been used even this past weekend. We had somebody record on it for auditions for a college program, and we've done several different recording sessions on it outside of the ones that we did with you, for a variety of reasons. And so it's been used a lot in the community already, and it's only been here for just about a year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that. So I think that's probably good, if you're good with that. Anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I think that's pretty much me.
Yeah.
That's I keep busy. I also conduct a local a cappella group, which is semi-professional, Watertown Music Aviva, and that's 24 singers, all a cappella music. And I also conduct the Sackets Harbor Vocal Arts. That's more of an oratorio choir. They do larger works. So I keep myself busy in the community doing other things. And, really enjoy.
I guess one thing, so you do a lot of music then.
Yeah.
Do you do anything else that's not music related? Do you stick to kind of...
Well, I try and stick. I try and do other things in the community. Right now, I'm currently the president of the Friends of the Flower Library. So that's the auxiliary organization for the library. It's the fundraising arm.
Yep.
So each year we do, for example, the book sale that goes on, and we're providing at least somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 a year for programming now. So for any children and adult programming that's done at the library, quite a bit of that's been funded by this organization. So I'm very proud of the work that we do with that.
That's great. So it's been, I really appreciate the fact that you were our artist spotlight you let us kind of do this interview and everything, allowed us to use Trinity Church and allow us to use it for other things as well. It's really great. Thanks so much, and congratulations being our artist spotlight.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good. I like that a lot.